Action.
Anything interesting in the paper today?
Well, there's this great article on these new things called blue jeans. Oh, and Cook & Company went bankrupt.
You're kidding! They handle railroads and government loans and everything.
I know. Serves them right for passing that dang Coinage Act. Maybe now they'll repeal it and let me pay my debts.
Hey, Mom. I went down to the bank to try to get the bond cut, but they wouldn't let me. Do you know what that's about?
Cook & Company closed. This could be more serious than we think. Maybe it's a recession.
Because of one bank?
As it turned out, it was serious. Overinvestment in railroads after the Civil War caused far more growth in the industry than was necessary. Most companies struggled to find business, and when the Panic of 1873 struck, 89 out of 364 railroads went bankrupt. The Panic of 1873 led to two 10% wage cuts for the railroad workers, poor working conditions, and strained worker-employer relationships. It was also during this time that Rutherford B. Hayes had won the disputed election of 1876. This election was decided by a special committee because neither candidate had a majority in the Electoral College. Tilden, the lower class's choice, had the popular vote, but lost the election. With Hayes's election, the tensions between workers and businesses increased. The origin of the first outbreak was in Baltimore, where the railroad workers refused to submit to a second reduction of 10% from their wages. On July 16, 1877, 40 firemen and brakemen in Baltimore left their trains and began a strike. The railroad company quickly was flooded with qualified job applicants. The strikebreakers were largely European immigrants, but the men on strike forcibly prevented hirees from working. By evening, news of the strike had spread to Martinsburg, West Virginia, where 100 men were preventing trains from moving in either direction. The railroad company appealed to West Virginia's governor, Henry Matthews, for help, who then commanded Colonel Faulkner to preserve the peace.
Have been requested to aid the authorities in Martinsburg to preserve the peace. If necessary, do so with your company. Report to me the state of affairs.
Strikers have refused to allow trains to move either east or west from town. Do my orders extend any further than protecting the peace? If so, answer in full.
Avoid using force if possible, but see that the law is executed and that the riot suppressed. Give all necessary aid to the civil authorities. I rely on you to act discreetly and firmly. Look also to Upequan.
Must I protect men who are willing to run their trains, and see that the same are permitted to go east and west?
I am so informed that the rioters constitute a combination so strong that the civil authorities are powerless to enforce the law. If this is so, prevent any interference by the rioters with the men at work, and prevent obstruction of the trains.
Colonel Faulkner acted promptly upon the instructions given to him, and attempted to aid the town authorities in protecting the road against the strikers.
Tried to take train out, and was fired into. Had one man shot, and shot one man. The engineers and firemen left us, and we could not take the train out. No fireman or engineer will go. It is impossible for me to do anything further with my company. Most of them are railroad men, and they will not respond. The force is too formidable for me to cope with.
The peace must be preserved, and law-abiding citizens protected. Whatever force necessary to accomplish this must be used. I can send, if necessary, a company in which there are no men who will be unwilling to aid in suppressing the riot and executing the law. Answer.
There is great excitement caused by the severe wounding of one of the strikers. Sympathy seems with them. Engineers and firemen are reluctant under this excitement to risk taking out trains. If you think such a condition of things requires a military force, you will have to send it from other points than this, for reasons theretofore stated.
Colonel Faulkner then made a speech to rioters saying he had performed his duty, and if the trainmen deserted their posts he could do nothing more. The militia then disbanded. Governor Matthews requested the help of national troops, and Hayes responded, sending 250 regular troops to Martinsburg and other points of disturbance. They found 1,500 freight cars and locomotives blocked on the side tracks in and about the town. Under the protection of the regular troops, 2 freight trains were sent out from Martinsburg that day without bloodshed. On July 20th, a mob of 2,000 men, women, and children amassed in Baltimore in support of the strikers. The crowd got rowdy and violent, cursing the military and throwing one man in uniform off a bridge. One rioter threw a brick at the military men guarding the armory. 150 armed men exited the armory, being assaulted by the mob on their way to the depot. Soldiers fired into the crowd, causing more outrage. In Pittsburgh, on July 21st and 22nd, the riots continued. Troops fired into a mob of citizens, killing 16 and wounding many more. Outrage at the troops' actions spurred citizens to take up arms and attack the buildings where the soldiers were staying. Around midnight, 20,000 men had gathered and attempted to burn the soldiers out. The soldiers braved the night and in the morning moved on to Sharpsburg. On the way, they were attacked by rioters and men on both sides were killed. The strike moved to St. Louis, San Francisco, and Chicago, where similar events occurred. Judge Thomas Drummond ruled that interfering with the railroad operations was a federal offense. President Hayes approved of this, and on the 21st, he issued another proclamation warning rioters to disperse within 24 hours. With the use of force, the strike was eventually put down, and on the 25th, the first train was moved into Pittsburgh since the beginning of the strike. The railroad strike of 1877 made the idea of labor unions popular with working-class citizens. Those who were not organized during the strike lost money directly, while those in labor unions had money saved and could still live life similarly to their working lifestyle. The economic damage was deep. This strike successfully provided a way for workers to demand what they wanted from their employers. By the 1880s, the number of strikes had risen to 10,000, and about 700,000 workers had gone on strike. The strike also provided attention to the poor working conditions of railroaders. The B&O Railroad, which was known for providing the worst wages, became the first railroad to offer a pension plan and relief for sickness and injury. The urge to strike influenced other industries as well.
Approximate monetary losses totaled between 4 and 6 million, nearly half of which was suffered by the railroad companies. This equates to over $1 billion in today's money.
The real preventable aspect of the strike was the government's decision to give subsidies and land grants to railroad companies. Without overspeculation, the railroad companies would not be hit as hard and thus might not have cut wages. But, with overspeculation, the companies' moves were justified, as were the workers' demands. With overspeculation, it is inevitable.